you haven't done anything to put a dent in the aggro druid's tempo or momentum, you're going to lose.
Yeah, you can't get rid of multiple things and grey bows and that sort of stuff. You can clear 1 or 2 big minions off, but you can't. You haven't got a wipe. So grey bow just kind of sticks and can be a bit irritating. But on the other side of it, if you do get ahead, then the druid basically has 0 spells, approximately, in round America's terms. And they have the same problem getting your stuff off the board. They just have a couple of 4/5s, which, you know, you can roll your eyes and go, haha, I'll just hit them with my actual minions. But Rami, looking for much better than the garbage he was dealt in the opener, and Monsanto, well, he's probably just trying to find somewhere to sit.
He probably is already sitting. I can imagine I've tried to play Hearthstone on my phone and walk at the same time. It's very difficult. But Narinda and I mentioned it earlier. Monsanto's flying to another event. He's currently playing from the airport. Hopefully that doesn't cause any interruptions, but that's where we are. And not the greatest opening hand for Monsanto, to be completely honest. Draws the Pack Mule in the mulligan, which means you don't get the extra copy. Has some sticky minions to put on the board like the Annoyatron, but no way to really get that composting online. Could definitely use that Battle Guard sooner rather than later. Meanwhile, Rami's just got the juice. The prep, not so great, but Octobot fights well for board and obviously makes it easier for him to keep the board and continue removing things, especially with access to a free prize plunder.
Yeah, it turns out when your opponent plays a lot of 1 attack and 1 health minions, your Octobot not only procs easily, but is actually a valid minion in its own right. Interesting choice now for Rami. You want to prep passage, TJ? Do you want to do that?
Well, prep passage and then bump to get the discounts?
Yeah, because you've got another one in your hand for next turn anyway.
Yeah, the other option would be to go like bump and then
dump your hand.
Dump your hand, yeah. And then passage next turn for reload, but then the prep is kind of stranded.
Which isn't the worst, because, you know, something will come along, you'll get a shroud or something at some point.
Oh, he's running out of time.
My only concern is this turn doesn't do much. Yeah, he's running out of time, so he's got to go this way now. Good call. This is a lot. This is a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And there's only 2 cards left in hand, both of which are already reduced to 0. The prep being reduced to -1, which actually does exist. If a Cult Neophyte were to be played, that prep would still cost 0, though there's no Cult Neophyte on the other side. So the second Octobot really is not getting any value whatsoever. It could if Monsanto doesn't end up hitting it, and then Rami can Secret Passage next turn.
And he absolutely might not hit it. I mean, you can see where he's pointing at the moment, but the reason I say that is Monsanto might be thinking, like, what's the worst that can happen? Well, the worst that can happen is actually Secret Passage into bump, into dump 3 mana's worth of stuff at reduced cost, which is a lot in Rogue.
I wonder.
Monsanto also looking at his hand and, like, crying inside a little. Yep, Rami knows. He's in a great spot. You said it's all about the early board, TJ. And other than the minor inconvenience that he can no longer procto the Octo, that's fine. He's got his prep.
Procto the Octo. Shroud of Concealment is a fantastic draw, by the way. It's just a choice for Rami here, whether or not he actually wants to do that or just Secret Passage and see what's in there to dump some more cards. This way, he's very likely to get something to proc the Octobot, and then, oh my gosh, he can just...
yeah.
This game
I wanted to play them all, I've got to admit.
Done.
I wanted to play them all. It's near enough. It's so much. I mean, I take the mask here as some sort of, if it all somehow goes wrong, yeah, like, yeah. Just yeah.
Yeah. Just.
Do you know where the secret passages go to, by the way, in Cluedo? In Clue, as Americans call it?
Did you call it Cluedo?
Yeah, it's Cluedo in the UK.
Why?
course, we put dough on the end of clue. Dough.
Cool. I mean, to each their own, am I right? No, I don't, actually.
So one of them goes from the kitchen to the study, and the other one goes from the lounge to the conservatory. I thought you'd like to know that.
I'm looking for a
That's part of my research for this cast. I'm not sure why, but there it is.
I'm glad you did that, because there is never a world where I would have. I think you go for a 1 here.
Uh-huh. I instinctively default to 1s in these situations, but haven't we got a good enough hand anyway? Yeah, a 5 might just sort of end it before something bad happens to us. Yeah? Like, what was the 1 adding to what we're already doing, is my question, I guess.
If he got buffs for his minions.
Okay.
Right? Because he was
Yeah,
doing a lot of damage this turn. He could have expedited the game. I guess taking a 5 also could expedite the game. You could hit the give your minions +2/+2 in that situation also. And none of your minions are really going to die, right? Park Panther would be the only thing you'd be scared of. And you wouldn't even really be scared of it, right? It would just clear up a couple stuff from your board, but you'd still have a massive board going into the next turn.
Talking of boarding, wonder what time Monsanto's flight is.
I honestly have no idea. I think it's much later in the day.
Right.
He just went early, so he wasn't in transit.
I guess I should talk some sense just for a minute, because Monsanto does have a huge turn available here.
Reflect in the moonwell.
This is where your plan of being able to buff everything for 1 mana would actually look quite good. There is, however, Prep Mask, which basically wipes this out.
I mean, I feel like Rami could do just about anything here.
Uh-huh.
I would be like, yeah, that makes sense. Even if he like Secret Passage and just digs for something, I could see it. If he plays the Golem, I could see that too. If he preps the Mask, put spell damage on the board, yep, can absolutely see that. Could prep a Shroud, sure. Draw some minions, play more minions. Could see that as well.
There you go.
Clearing the board seems fantastic.
Did one of those. Yeah, Monsanto doesn't want to see any more of that. And it goes to 1-0 to Rami, so he's now not only doing well with the Drib, he's finally got his 2nd win ever with Garrote Rogue. At least on broadcast or like in the tournament. Maybe he's won one in practice somewhere, or maybe he dreamt he won one. Who knows? But
it seems dreams are a big contentious point in Grandmasters at the moment.
Hopes and dreams, TJ. Hopes and dreams. That's what everybody's here for.
Yep, it does feel like he played that game incredibly cleanly. Obviously, was given a good opening start to the game. So, I mean, it could just have been being banned away. He could have been hitting bad matchups. There's a lot of reasons for that. But 1-0 start, nice. But now Monsanto gets to counter. He's going to move over to the Handlock to go against this Aggro Druid. And this matchup has seemed to be pretty good for Handlock. They have a lot of ways to keep the early board under control with all the removal. Touch of Nathrezim, Mortal Coil, Unstable Shadow Blast, Drain Soul, and the big one, Soul Rend. And then, of course, Soul Rend is double good because it thins out your deck, gets you that 10 or less cards very quickly, and then you can start playing your threats for cheap. You can start getting those Bristlebacks to gain you tempo, get those Baron Scavengers online. I feel like we've seen this matchup go the way of Handlock so many times.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is down to that Anetheron. Now the Handlocks are kind of being forced to play it. Before they had a choice and often didn't, because there's more than just Rogue in the meta. But now they're being forced to play it. We are seeing them, I think, win that a little bit more often. I think he needs to as well. I think that it would be nice for him not to just have to rely on his Demon Hunter all the way. Which, against an aggro lineup you kind of expect to have to do. But it is only running at 56% in GM with 50 wins and 39 losses, the handlock in this matchup. So by no means a walkover. I just think it has, I agree with you, I think it has got better with a Netheron. But still lots of manoeuvring that the Rogue can do. Yeah, I want
Gotta be
feel contact.
Pretty hefty maneuvering.
You hit an Octobot, you draw a lot of cards, and then you put Garrod in there. They have dropped the armor vendors now. That's one thing in the Rogue's fate. Well, 1 point back to the Rogue, I guess. There you go. He's maneuvered.
Oh, God.
Heftily.
Oh, yeah. This is the juice.
Is this what you meant by hefty maneuvering?
I'm a full... You know what I just realized, Neil? I'm a full-on idiot.
You only just realised.
Yeah.
Why are you a full-on idiot in particular?
Because I was saying this from the perspective of an aggro druid, and I was wondering why you were talking about Rogue, and I was like, I don't want to point this out to Neil because he's crazy right now. Turns out
You
I was
idiot.
Turns out I was the crazy one. I'm glad I didn't try to call you out though, because that would have meant that I was an even bigger idiot.
But now I'm really worried because I will do that at some point, and I know you're not going to call me out on it.
No, I wouldn't, and so then we'd both be idiots. But at least in this situation, only one of us is an idiot.
It's a good point. It's a good point. So, at what point after the field contact mulligan did you think this might be a Rogue deck?
Well, I was very confused from the get-go. I was looking at the match tracker, and I was like, huh. Like, I thought for a second Monsanto had queued up Rogue, and then I was like, but if you just showed Handlock, oh well, you know, those things happen sometimes.
They do. It's been known.
And then I saw the field contact in the mulligan, and I was like, wait a second. He didn't pick up a Sovereign. Wait, is Sovereign even good? Wait, this isn't aggro druid. This is Rogue. I've been lied to by my own brain.
But you did talk about the matchup sensibly. That's what's confused me.
Yeah, but it's not as big of a deal, right? This one's more not about being scrappy, but more about like getting those big swing turns, right? Getting those cold neophytes down in a timely fashion. When you making sure you have the threats available once you think your opponent's about to combo, to kind of force them to kill you and try and make it as hard as possible. And if they don't, then you kill them on the backswing.
I think the only person who would invent a format where you play the same matchup twice in a row would be Radu. I'm sure he could invent a format which is like, yeah, look at my great new format. You play like Rogue versus Warlock, and then you play it again for no reason other than why not. All right, Rami is going into the passage somewhere between the conservatory and... Do you remember? Were you listening? Where the conservatory goes to?
Yep, the library.
No, the lounge.
And then the lounge goes to the library.
And then the kitchen goes to the study. Dead on. Well done, TJ.
And then the kitchen goes to the study. And then the study goes in the bin. Dude.
Most of my study has gone in the bin years ago. That's why I'm now here. Right, Rami had a pretty good turn there. He did manage to get the Divine Shield onto the field contact, which, although it is incredibly unlikely to stick, it just causes a pain for Monsanto to have to deal with it. And then it allows Rami to go back into the passage or cram session or really whatever he wants and set up this second Octo.
Octo-Procto. Is looking pretty good, though. Looking quite good for our pal Rami in this situation. This is a pretty rough clear to be.
Yeah, Drain Soul!
This many resources.
Divine Shield!
Yeah. The benefit for Monsanto is that he does have these swing turns kind of loaded up, right? He's got Raised Dead, which will likely have a Netheron Cult Neophyte in the pool with Backfire to fill up the hand. Because he's been able to tap, use Backfire, we'll get quest completion online with just the Raised Dead alone, at least the first portion. The Flesh Giants are going to be pretty cheap. What? Draw a card, give your minions +1/+1, all of them?
In fact, they're all amazing, right? Because I think he took Rush on the first one. But if he goes for the buff, then he's got some pretty good trades available to him to keep the board as well. But obviously, if he goes for the longer-term plan, he will want to draw cards because he gets the battle cry with the next field contact and he gets another card. So that's what he's gone for. He's also going to use the rush because that still helps his trades. Super. I like it.
Yeah.
Choose suit.
One is just super flexible in a lot of situations, and because he had such a good start, I don't think he needs to rely on like a 5 for board. Going to use a very coveted Shadow Step, but I think this is perfectly reasonable just to have that 0 mana draw a card in his arsenal for second field contact once it's picked up, which we're going to start to get closer and closer to that being a reality. Second, Raise Dead. So there is a double Anethron possibility here, if I'm not mistaken.
I think there is. I think. One's
yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, so he can just raise Dead twice, and then he can get 2 Anethrons, yeah?
Yeah. So it'd be tap. Oh, wow. Okay. Can he do it all? Raise Dead? He can't fit a backfire in, which is the problem. So Raise Dead will fill up the hand, so that'll make the Anethron 1. And then he can Raise Dead again and get Anethron and Flesh Giant down, if I'm not mistaken.
1,
Is that all?
2. Yes, 1 and 2 is 3. If he hits it. Which he has to, because there's only that and the Neophytes. And these Neophytes are relevant later as well, TJ.
Yeah, I'm actually curious if he would like to choose a Flesh Giant here or a Cult Neophyte. That's a pretty difficult situation. He has 3 Cult Neophytes in hand, and just a tap next turn will make this Flesh Giant free. It gives him a lot of flexibility for next turn. Even though it's so much less power on board, I think the Cult Neophyte just makes more sense.
He agrees with you, and I'm not going to disagree with Monsanto, even though I might disagree with you sometimes. But yeah, because he's now got, like you say, the flexibility and the efficiency. And still has 2 Neophytes, which is the magic number, I think, for you're not going to beat me this time turn. So in a couple of turns' time, when it looks like Rami's about to go off, 14 cards left, so won't be this turn, probably won't be next turn. Then you just jam the Neophytes, jam some other stuff, bake some bread while you're doing it, and hope it gets there as the Warlock.
I wonder.
Right, we're off to the conservatory.
It's quiet.
Play that
Second
last one.
Yeah, second field contact does seem a little
Choose suit.
aggressive. I don't even know if aggressive is the right word. I struggled for the right
Wrong?
I want to say wrong. He could pick up a Shadow Step right now. No, he couldn't play it because the Cold Neophyte on the board. So now there's no more draw steps left. And Monsanto has a massive, massive swing turn available. Rami still has 9 cards left in deck, which is a lot of cards to have to get through with just natural draws. He did have to pick up a cram session, and because of that, he picked up Primordial Studies. He also has a Thero Aug Merchant, but those turns then become much more difficult because you have to sequence things out properly and draw at the right times, because then you're going to run into an issue. Monsanto could just go, what? He can't get a Cold Neophyte down if he wants to get a Scavenger down. But Soul Rend, Flesh Giant, and then either a Scavenger or a Cult Neophyte.
Yeah, this is like it's whenever I think that somebody's made a mistake with Rogue, because I've played a lot of Rogue and I'm actually quite handy at Rogue myself. If I do say so myself, I'm always wrong. Like, this is actually fantastic from Rami because of the huge amount he'd draw he can get from Cram Session after Primordial Studies. The Octobot will reduce the whole hand. He can get 3 spell damage. And then, whilst Monsanto's taking care of this board, Rami can just win with the Cram Session and the Garots going forwards.
Muzzle their magic.
Could be a little slow, but...
Efficient is sufficient.
Okay. He's going to freeze something and then reduce his hand and then hope that Cram Session is enough to get there. Is that the game plan?
I think so. This is the bit that doesn't work when you don't get the contact back. But of course, he could have drawn the Shadow Step. That was the other option, which was just an outright win. But he does have a backup plan of, super good cram session.
Yeah, he knows Battle Masher's gone as well. So that can give him a little bit of peace of mind knowing that, just keeping less than lethal on board is enough to keep him alive.
Yep. But the trouble now is Monsanto's going to bake some bread.
So, big thing here. I'll just give a visual show. I mean, Rami can get through his deck. Like, double Swindle with a prep left and Shrouds. Actually, the Shrouds are dead because there's only one Cold Neophyte. So he's going to run into dead card draw. He's got 8 cards left. It'll be 7 when he gets his natural draw next turn. He's going to have, 4 spell damage? So he can draw 4 cards, and that 4 spell damage will only cost 2 mana. The problem becomes he would need to hit his cards in the right order to make this happen, because he would need to hit his Garrotes and Swindles with his card draw, and then be able to Garrote and then Swindle the Garrotes out. The Shrouds do present a problem, and not having any minions to draw with Shrouds or Swindle is also an issue.
With that in mind, I wonder if he could have taken the Guild Trader last turn instead of the Blood Mage and then shuffled it in and get more out of his Shrouds that way.
I think he just wanted cheap stuff, but this is the turn.
Yeah.
He's got to go, and now he has Octobot, which will make his hand free. But then the Cold Neophyte could pose a problem. But he's got to go here. So there's a Garrote.
That's good ordering. He needed a Garrote. Now he has got a chance. Whatever happens, there is now a chance because he's going to have huge amount of spell damage available for this Garrote.
I mean, it's probably still guaranteed, right? Because he just needs to hit 3 bleeds.
Yep.
With Cram Session.
That's not one. That is one. And he has got the Swindle. The Shrouds are the Muppet hits. He doesn't want the Muppets.
Wait. He didn't get it. Oh no, he can Blood Mage. He can Pet Finger the Blood Mage. Alright, yeah, this is certainly lethal. There's 3 non-bleed cards in his deck. And there are, 5 bleeds? There it is.
And 2 Swindles, which he can cast, which will draw the bleed. Well played, Rami. That was creative, inventive, different, and it worked. So, yep, it gave him a chance. Don't forget, he could have just hit the Shadow Step on the turn that he went off with the second field contact as well. It wasn't just a dead effort, but he saw the backup plan.
No, the Shadow Step would have cost 1 because of the Cold Neophyte.
Oh.
So he couldn't have hit it unless it was off literally the first draw. I still think it was unnecessarily risky, right? He had ways he could have Shrouded instead. He had ways to thin his deck without using the Cold Neophyte, without using the field contact. But his plan did come together because he did have a Cram Session on the other side, and that was what told him, all right, you can play the field contact because you have double Aug Merchant. You can pick this. Well, he didn't know the information of the primordial studies at that point, so it's tough, right? If he played the field contact not knowing that primordial studies was going to be there, hit the Blood Mage Downtoss off the primordial studies, which gave him the actual draw that he needed. I still think it was an unnecessary risk to take, but it did work out for him, and he, from that point on, right, once he made the decision to play the field contact, he executed it perfectly.
Yeah, I'd love to know if he'd got some plan in case there was a spiced bread baker going on there. That would have been slightly weird, because Monsanto did have the opportunity to heal up a little bit there, but obviously, probably, in fairness to Monsanto, just assessed that he shouldn't die on this turn. Because it involved a lot of things to be in Rami's hand that didn't have to be there.
Yeah. I mean, Monsanto, I think, played that pretty cleanly, wove in the cold neophytes when he could, dealt with Octobot plus field contact early in the best way that he could, right? Took a lot of extra damage because of it, was floating pretty low towards the end there. Rami, with how much spell damage he had, only actually needed 3 bleeds to be drawn from the deck, which if he had needed 4 in that situation, maybe we're looking at a much different game. It would have come down to effectively a 50-50 with 3 natural cards in the deck and 3 bleeds. So this hand, though, that made it better, but
this whole game this match is nowhere near over. This Demon Hunter is pretty good against everything that Rami's got going on. It's okay against the Rogue. It's not, you know, it's really good against the Rogue. It's pretty good against the Druid. What else has he got left? The Mage, the Hunter. Monsanto might be okay still. They banned the Druid, and there's the Mage and Hunter still out there.
Pleasure doing business.
And this is a matchup. This is one of the matchups where you bring this deck.
Glide is a pretty big card for Monsanto here. He's going to get the discount on it. He's actually just got a reasonable hand regardless. He's got ways, easy ways to complete quests. If he's going to Glide next turn, then he wouldn't want to play the Sigil, right? He'd want to save the Sigil, and then Glide. So this tells us that he probably doesn't want to Glide. It looks like he's going to probably empty out the left side of his hand and then set up the Glide in outcast position to actually complete the quest, because that gives him the best likelihood that he'll be able to play a safe Kurtrus. Assuming he can actually complete the quest this turn, but he has double jump, can hit Spectral Sight, he has an extra natural draw, or he could just hit Spectral Sight. Immolation Aura is a big tool, but I still feel like, yeah, I guess he needs to just complete the quest. Forget that.
There is this sort of weird plan going forward, assuming that, you know, he can do the quest without it, where he's got Immolation Aura and Glide in the same turn at some point. So wipe out your board, blow up your hand, good luck winning is an option he has all at once later, if he can keep the card draw coming enough to keep his quest ticking over. Which is ambitious, but possible.
Okay, gonna just preemptively copy that Moarg. I'm fine with that. While it's large.
Rami might.
Oh. Okay. I guess only having 3 mana at the end of your Secret Passage is not the best play in the world.
Or is a lot better.
Yeah. It gets Arcane Intellect, though, so that's a pretty big deal, to be honest. Just having some way to get through his deck. Right now he's got the combo pieces, but no way to actually thin out his deck aside from the Secret Passages, which it's still pretty early in the game for that to happen.
Monsanto's still looking for
I grow impatient.
more stuff to complete the quest, get the Kurtrus down, start getting going. It's only turn 4. He's doing pretty well at it already. Spectral Sight's so tempting every time you see it. Kind of ruins his Glide. He's got to find a way to dump his hand if he does Spectral.
He could just Glide and add the Spectral Sight to his hand.
All right.
The alternative is he could Immolation Aura and then just forget the quest this turn and then Glide next turn.
Grows short.
He's looking at
Like double jump Glide next turn, which will also have the added benefit of it being an outcast position. That's a tough decision. I'm leaning towards the Glide just because I feel like it's a double whammy. It disrupts your opponent, and lets you have that sort of free quest completion. So he does go for that line. So I imagine we are going to see an outcasted Glide next turn.
I agree. I think gliding without disrupting the Rogue is a little bit ambitious. It's not ambitious, but you can wait. You're not in that much of a hurry to win the game. You can disrupt them as you go. So it looks like he's setting that one up. This is where 4 is so much better than 3 in the mana stakes. Main question here for me, TJ, is whether you use the Shadow Step or not to get some double disruption going on.
muzzle their magic.
That's an upgrade. Probably.
Not bothering with a swindle because he knows he's going to get Glod at some point soon.
And to be honest, like, well, he blocks the glide, so that's a pretty big deal. I don't know though. Maybe the glide would even be good for him. Like,
I think it would, but if he filled his hand up, he then loses a swindle and the cards just go back into the deck. It's kind of not doing.
yeah, no. I'm saying like that decision to not swindle and instead like. I don't know. Maybe he thought that glide would be there anyway. Monsanto's just going to do it anyway. He's set up for it, so he might as well just complete the quest.
But he only did it on his side. He didn't do the double jump.
Yeah. Well, it costs 2. There's 2 and 4. He
Oh yeah. Because Rami's blocked it. Sure. There you go. My chance to be an idiot has been taken with open arms. And now Rami's seen the glide, so he's happy to start playing the Arcane Intellect. And you do the whole, well, if you drew your second glide in glide position from your previous glide, then, yeah, sure, you can have the Hearthstone game, because sometimes you just have to make those concessions.
Concessions.
As in concession stand.
That's an upgrade. Probably.
Initiating overdrive. My quest.
Right, Virtus is down, so everybody's now racing to combo.
Yep, and I mean, it feels like Monsanto's been doing like all this maneuvering to try and. Oh, there it is.
Whoa,
Finally.
there's stuff.
Yeah, that's a stuff right there. That is a big old stuff.
His brain freezes perfectly align with killing your opponent's thing. He can double stuff if he wants. He's got space in hand. He will hit a shadow step if he goes for the second contact.
Paying for my discretion.
I think he's got one left.
Yeah, he does have one left.
Because he can make the space, right? The reason you don't play 2 contacts normally is because you don't have the space. But if you've got 2 preps going on, you can just empty your whole deck. But he shouldn't be dead next turn, so he's just going to wait. I think. He's getting twitchy, TJ, because he's like this combo away from getting a point and becoming a lot safer in the standings than he was at the start of the day.
Yeah.
Keep space open. Kill your own minions. Keep space. Okay.
Yep. I like this. He has a field contact on board. He also has an Octobot with spell damage, so I think
He also
only 5 cards in left. This is near
lethal.
guaranteed.
It's lethal
right?
next turn. Yes, it's lethal next turn. As long as he's got. Oh, he only needs to have 1 spell damage anyway, right? Of course, 3/8.
Assuming from his perspective, assuming that like Monsanto clears and heals, right? He does have 2 spell damage, so that should be fine.
Oh yeah, because he's got no brain freezers left. So he can't clear his own stuff up.
Yeah.
Oh, he's fine, because he would attack for 13 on board and just play the 2 Garots, and that would be the end of the game. And Monsanto has to heal here to have any chance, and he has to kill the Octobot, which will make space for Rami to.
I'm surprised
all again.
he traded, right? He could have gone the Guild Trader Talented Arcanist on the board. That would have drawn 2 more cards. And then he could have Fell Screen Blasted at the end. He can still
Rami
do
does
all of that.
Oh my goodness. Just check, Rami has got the second Octobots, and he's got the Kazakus. Sometimes you run out of 2 health minions. That's one of the things that can possibly go wrong. He has a prep for the Shroud if things start getting a bit awkward. Oh, that's perfect. That makes things really easy.
It's quiet.
Yeah.
quiet.
Is there any whiffs? He's got 2 swindles left again as well. So
Efficient is
I don't think there's any whiffs, right? I think he's got this.
with 2 swindles, I don't think anything's whiffy here.
Because he's got a pen flinger left as well. As the-
Yeah.
I'm out
Yeah.
of cards.
No, Shadow Step, then get the Octobot proc, then Garrotes, and then pen flinger for the lethal. Easy peasy!
initiating overdrive.
Well, he was 1-9 at the start of the day with Rogue this season, and he needed to do it when it mattered most. He's done it 3 different ways, showing that he's not a 1-9 player with Rogue. He's in fact a 4-9 player with Rogue, but he was better than that. He's played really well today. Made one decision we didn't like, but it worked, so who are we to say? And he picks up another point. He's out of the bottom 4 with power to add. He's got another match later today.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, it was a nice series overall, I think. It was, again, like plays that I wouldn't have made, but they worked, so I can't argue with them. So I definitely like, it seemed like it was one turn off from him losing the game, but he always made sure that he had it out knowing that he had 1 turn left, knowing that he had the lethal, especially in that last game, right? You could get caught up in like shadow stepping cold neophyte to try and block, but he understood that he needed the extra spell damage because his board wasn't likely to stick, and that Monsanto, if he didn't kill him, was very likely going to heal back up, which he did, so he did need that extra spell damage, and planned it out to make sure that he knew he had enough draw left in his deck to actually get it done. And so overall, just a nicely played series from Rami, and